What's going on, viewers? This is A to Z Custom, Steven here. Today I'm going to answer a question, and that is can I daily drive a classic car? Now, a lot of people have been getting more interested in classic cars lately. You know, everybody likes a good old muscle car, 50, 60 years old. They're really cool, they're not too expensive to buy, and they're fun to work on. But is it really a good idea to daily drive them? And the answer is no. It is not a good idea to daily drive a muscle car or a classic car. And I'm gonna give you a few reasons why. Now, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that you really shouldn't.
All right, so some of the problems that Steve has brought up before about having an old car for a daily driver. You can do it, very expensive, depending on what you got as well. Now, I dailied a 79 Trans Am, sort of like the one we got here. Same motor, Oldsmobile 403, and I drove it throughout high school, probably about 40, 50 miles a day. Now, the problem that I always run into is not much during the winter and fall, but during the summer. When it's 95 degrees outside, this car is going to be running at 220 degrees, which isn't the best because it's going to be super hot. Second, you got black interior, which also doesn't really make it good, but the worst thing is AC. You have no AC, you got the windows down. If it rains, you gotta roll your windows up or just, you know, kind of take a hit and get your interior wet if you don't care, or if it's just not that nice. Now, other problems with dailying these old cars is the fuel. Now, where we're at in North Carolina, fuel right now is about $1.70, so now you kind of can do it. But if you're living in California, or you're living in New York, you're living in all these other very big places that gas is up there at $3 to $4 a gallon, probably not the wisest, since they probably get at the most 12 to 14 miles to the gallon. Now, also, with all these old cars, they don't like stop and go traffic. Now, brakes, and especially if you got a clutch as well, because your leg's going to be worn out by the time you get home. One of the biggest things, too, is driving with these for dailies is in case you get hit. Now, you don't want to be driving your car and then somebody runs a red light or somebody's drunk and wants to swerve into your lane and hit it, because then you're going to be down a nice classic and it might be totaled. You might can fix it, but it's going to cost you a whole lot of money unless you've got spare parts, whether it be fenders, doors, etc., etc. Now, sometimes during the summer or whenever you've been driving it too much, your starter will get hot if you always have to go in there and crank it up. Now, on mine, it was pretty rough, but I've had to go through about 3 starters from it overheating. Second is you have to adjust your valves if they're not already properly adjusted. I had to do it every about 2 to 3 months. I had to adjust them because they'd get out of whack. If anything breaks down on the car, whether it be fuel filters, fuel pumps, oil pumps, or anything like that, you pretty much have to replace everything. But they do have them readily available for certain motors and certain cars and everything. But the problem is, depending on how old the car is and how long it's been done the last time, you might end up snapping a bolt like we did over here. That comes into, you know, your general maintenance. Maintenance for older cars seems to be pretty easy. I mean, there's not much that can go wrong, but when it does go wrong, it's pretty expensive and it'll cost you way out of the pocket depending on what it is. So, and if you really can't resist the urge to daily a classic car, there's going to be a couple tips that you all want to have. One, keep a toolkit in the trunk or in your back seat with various different wrenches. That's a must. Second, have AAA. 3, have a lot of money, because you never know if you're going to break down on the side of the road or just anything that's going to crap out on you. Now, there is some vehicles that are good for being daily drivers. Not saying that you can't do it. So now, to list off some of the cars that are good, you can get into some of these right here, late 70s, Camaros, Firebirds. They're pretty reliable. Firebird's a little bit more expensive than Camaros. Camaros also had a little bit different engines to be more reliable than Pontiac did, plus parts are cheaper for Camaro. Second will be a Mustang. The Fox body Mustangs are now coming in. Those are great dailies. Anything with a 2-barrel, really. I mean, they're a little bit more fuel efficient depending on what you're looking for. You want to try and find a car with an overdrive transmission, not just a 3-speed, but you want to have that 4th gear in case you're driving or commuting from the highway on your expenders or your adventures to work and back. You want to find a car that the parts won't be expensive and the maintenance isn't expensive. So you want to get a car that you can go to the O'Reilly's, Advanced, AutoZone, any of those readily available part stores, and you're able to get that part that they have in stock, or they can order it and it'll be there 2 hours later. You don't want to get you a car that you have to go on eBay, you have to go on Craigslist, or you have to go through various online parts stores to actually get that part if needed, because then you'll be out of a car for more than probably about a week, depending on where you're at and what shipping is. Now, if you do want to daily one, like I said about the toolkit, you do need to have one. I mean, the biggest thing I've got in my car is I probably have about 7 to 10 tools that I can use for about anything on this car. That's something you need to get. Jumper cables, definitely a must, because you never know if you got a ground that's going to be sucking power out and you're going to have a dead battery. Third, you want to find something that's all complete. You don't want to find something that you have to put stuff together or has been changed up by somebody else, because you don't know what they have done. They may have bypassed some things, so you want to make sure all your gauges are working, your speedometer is working, your tach's working, most importantly your fuel gauge and your oil pressure gauge with your temperature too. Now, those are pretty easy, you can get those aftermarket, but you want to find you a car that you get into, turn the key, and it just fires right up every single time. You don't want to daily something that you're turning over and goes ram, 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 and then you gotta shove starting fluid down his throat, because then it's just not a daily anymore. Then it's just, you got a full-blown race car. All right, just to recap, I would say not to daily drive an old car like this. If you're going to, that's awesome. I love seeing them on the road as well. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, tell all your friends, let them see these videos too. We got more content to come. Thank you from A to Z Custom.